Park stood alone in the center of the Galactic Council chamber. The room was massive, built to make visitors feel small. 47 alien species sat in rising rows around her, their strange eyes watching, their translators humming softly. She wore the simple black uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. No decorations, no medals. Humanity had none to show. She had traveled 8 months to reach this place. 8 months in a borrowed ship, using fuel that Earth could barely afford. Back home, the situation was desperate. A massive solar flare had damaged the orbital satellites that helped grow food. Millions would starve within a year if nothing changed. Earth needed help. Earth needed the shield technology that these aliens used to protect their own worlds. Took a breath and spoke clearly. Honored members of the Galactic Council, I come before you to request emergency assistance. A solar event has crippled our agricultural systems. We ask only for temporary access to orbital shielding technology. We will pay any reasonable price. We will accept any conditions. Our people are dying. Silence filled the chamber. Then from the highest row came a sound she had not expected: laughter. High Speaker of the Helix Dominion rose from his seat. He was tall and thin, with skin that glowed faintly blue. His people had ruled this region of space for 3,000 years. They had never lost a war. They had never known hunger. He looked down at like she was an insect that had crawled onto his dinner plate. "The Dirt Dwellers beg again," announced. His voice echoed through the chamber. "How many times must we hear this? Perhaps if they spent less time breeding like animals and more time evolving like proper species, they would not need our scraps." More laughter. It spread through the chamber like a wave. A delegate from the collective spoke next. The collective was a hive mind, millions of creatures thinking as one. Their speaker was a small gray figure with no face. "We question why the humans are even permitted in this chamber. They are short-lived vermin. They die before they can learn anything useful. What can they offer us?" "Nothing," called another voice. The assembly delegate was a creature of living crystal, beautiful and cold. "We suggest quarantine, for galactic hygiene. Let them solve their own problems on their little rock." "If they even qualify as sentient," added the bright sovereignty representative, "a being of pure light contained in a floating sphere. Our scientists still debate this question." Stood perfectly still. Her face showed nothing, but her hands hidden in her sleeves were shaking, not with fear, with rage. She was transmitting everything back to Earth. Every word, every laugh, every insult. In Seoul, deep beneath Strategic Command, Admiral watched the feed on a wall of screens. He was 60 years old, with gray hair and a scar across his left cheek from a war most people had forgotten. Beside him sat Dr. Lee, a small woman with sharp eyes and ink-stained fingers. She led Earth's most secret research division. No one outside this room knew it existed. "They have no idea," said quietly. She pulled up files on her tablet. The cover page read Contingency 0 in red letters. "They think we are nothing." "Good," replied. His voice was calm, but his eyes were not. "Let them think that." On the screen was asking to speak again. Waved his hand in permission, still chuckling. Looked around the chamber. She memorized every face, every species, every delegate who had laughed. "I thank the Council for making Earth's position clear," she said. Her voice did not waver. "In response, I am authorized to announce the following. Effective midnight, Universal Standard Time, Earth formally withdraws from all 17 treaties we have signed with this Council and its member states." The laughter stopped. "We withdraw from the Trade Cooperation Agreement, the Scientific Exchange Protocol, the Mutual Defense Compact, the Navigation Rights Treaty, all of them, every single one." His glowing skin flickered. "You cannot do this. You need those treaties. Without them you have no rights in galactic space, no protection, no trade." "We are aware," said. "You will be isolated, alone. You will collapse within a decade." Smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Perhaps, But we will be free of this council, free of species who look at dying children and laugh, free of treaties that gave us nothing and cost us our dignity. She turned slowly, looking at each section of the chamber. We will remember this day, she continued. We will remember every word spoken here, every insult, every species that called us vermin and questioned our right to exist. Earth has a long memory, honored delegates, and we are very, very patient. She bowed once, the formal bow of departure, and walked toward the exit. Behind her the council erupted. Delegates shouted at each other. Some demanded that be stopped. Others called for sanctions, was screaming about proper protocols and legal procedures. No one tried to stop her. What could a primitive do, after all? Throw rocks at their warships. Reached her ship and sealed the door. Only then did she allow herself to breathe. Her hands were still shaking. Her communicator buzzed. Admiral's face appeared on the screen. "Well done, Ambassador," he said. "Come home, we have work to do." "What happens now?" asked. His expression was stone. "Now we go silent, no communications, no trade, nothing. Let them forget about us." And then, Doctor leaned into the frame. Her eyes were bright with something that might have been excitement, or anger, or both. "Then we show them what humanity can do when we stop pretending to be weak." Nodded, she started the engines and set course for Earth. Behind her, the Galactic Council continued to laugh. They thought they had won. They thought the humans had thrown a tantrum and would come crawling back within a year, begging for forgiveness. They were wrong. They had just made the worst mistake in galactic history. 6 months passed. Earth went completely dark. No signals left the solar system. No ships crossed the borders. The communication stations that had connected humanity to the galactic network were shut down, their lights going cold one by one. To the rest of the galaxy, it was as if Earth had simply stopped existing. At first, some aliens noticed. A few cargo companies complained to the Council about lost contracts. Human coffee and chocolate had been popular among certain species. Human art and music had found small audiences. But these were tiny losses, barely worth mentioning. "Let them sulk," told the Council when the matter was raised. "They will run out of food. They will run out of fuel. They will come crawling back, and when they do, we will make them pay for this insult." The Council agreed. The matter was closed. Earth was forgotten. This was exactly what humanity wanted. Behind the communication blackout, everything changed. Admiral stood on the observation deck of the Luna shipyard, watching construction crews work through the night. 3 massive ships were taking shape in the vacuum, their frames glowing with welding sparks. These were not the small, fragile vessels that humanity had shown the galaxy. These were warships, real warships, built for one purpose only. "How many can we complete?" asked. The shipyard commander checked her tablet. "At current pace, 50 by year's end. But if we expand to Mars and the orbital stations, triple shifts everywhere, we could reach 300. "Do it." On Earth, Doctor worked in a laboratory that did not officially exist. It was buried deep beneath a mountain in the Korean countryside, protected by a kilometer of rock and the most advanced security systems humanity had ever built. Only 12 people knew this place was real. She stood before a device that looked like a twisted ring of metal and light. It hummed with energy that made her teeth ache. "The calculations are complete," her assistant reported. "We can begin testing." Nodded, "Start the sequence." The device activated. Space itself seemed to bend around it, folding like paper. A window opened, showing stars that were impossibly far away. Then it closed and the humming stopped. Project Hammer was real. Faster than light travel, built from technology that humans had developed themselves. The galaxy believed that Earth had no FTL capability. They believed humans relied on slow ships and borrowed drives. They believed this because humanity had wanted them to believe it. 20 years ago, A probe had crashed in the Pacific Ocean. Not an alien probe, but something stranger. Something that seemed to have come from another dimension entirely. The technology inside was beyond anything humans had ever seen. But humans were clever. Humans were patient. And humans were very good at taking things apart and figuring out how they worked. For 2 decades, Earth's best scientists had studied that probe in secret. They had reverse-engineered its drive system. They had improved it. And they had never told anyone. "We are ready," reported to Admiral via encrypted channel. "The first fleet can be equipped within 4 months." "Good, what about weapons?" "The kinetic accelerators are in mass production. The new armor plating passed all tests. And the special project," she paused, "it works better than we hoped." Closed his eyes for a moment. "God help us all." "God has nothing to do with this," replied. "This is what happens when you corner a species that has spent its entire existence fighting itself." On Mars, Captain ran final checks on the first completed warship. It was called the Resolve, and it was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Alien ships were beautiful, they were elegant. They were designed to impress and intimidate with sleek lines and glowing shields. The Resolve was none of these things. It was ugly. It was brutal. It was covered in thick armor plates that could absorb punishment that would vaporize an alien cruiser. Its weapons were not elegant beams of light. They were kinetic accelerators that fired chunks of metal at incredible speeds, nuclear-pumped lasers that could cut through shields like paper, and other things. Things that tried not to think about. "The aliens build ships to look powerful," told his crew during the first test flight. "We build ships to survive, remember that. We come from a world that tried to kill us every single day. Ice ages, plagues, predators, wars. Everything on Earth wanted us dead, and we are still here. We did not survive by being elegant. We survived by being stubborn and mean and refusing to die." The crew cheered. Back on Earth, Intelligence Officer was doing different work. She sat in a room full of screens, reading through thousands of files. During humanity's years as a primitive member of the galactic community, they had been ignored. Aliens spoke freely around humans, assuming they could not understand. Aliens shared data with humans, assuming they could not use it. Aliens made deals and broke laws and committed crimes, assuming that the stupid dirt dwellers would never figure it out. They were wrong. Had spent 15 years building a network of spies, human workers in alien ports, human servants in alien households, human traitors who listened more than they spoke. She knew things that would destroy governments. She knew secrets that would shatter alliances. "When do we use this?" her deputy asked. "When the time is right," replied. "Information is a weapon, the best weapon. Guns can kill soldiers. Information can kill empires." On the last day of the 6th month, Ambassador recorded a message. She sat alone in a bare room facing a camera. Her face was calm but hard. "Members of the Galactic Council," she began. "6 months ago you laughed at humanity. You called us vermin. You aid to dying children. You questioned whether we deserve to exist." She paused. "We have spent these 6 months in silence. We have thought carefully about our future. We have made preparations." Another pause, longer this time. "You believed we were weak because we asked for help. You believed we were primitive because we showed you only what we wanted you to see. You believed we were harmless because it suited us to appear harmless." Her eyes seemed to look through the camera, through space itself, directly at every alien who would see this message. "You were wrong." She leaned forward. "We will now demonstrate what vermin can do when cornered. We will show you what a species learns when it spends 10,000 years fighting for survival. We will teach you why you should never, ever mistake kindness for weakness." She smiled. It was the smile of a predator. "School is in session." The message ended. It was transmitted on every frequency to every corner of the galaxy. The silence was over. And the galaxy would never be the same. The border station detected them too late. Officer of the Helix Dominion was working the night shift, watching his screens with half-closed eyes. Nothing ever happened at this station. It monitored the edge of the disputed corridor, 3-star systems that the major powers had argued over for centuries. No one owned them. No one wanted to start a war over them. So they sat empty, their resources untouched. Then his screens exploded with light. Sat up straight, spilling his drink across the console. Ships were appearing from nowhere, dozens of them, then hundreds. They were emerging from some kind of jump point that should not exist. Human ships, but that was impossible. Humans did not have FTL technology. Humans had nothing. He counted 300 vessels before the sensors overloaded. "Alert!" he screamed into his communicator. "Alert! Human fleet at the border, 300 ships. This is not a drill." On the bridge of the Resolve, Captain watched the alien station with calm eyes. His fleet spread out behind him in perfect formation. Tight groups, overlapping fields of fire. Doctrine developed on ancient battlefields and adapted for space warfare. "Open a channel," he ordered. "All frequencies." The communication officer nodded. "Channel open, sir." Spoke clearly, knowing his words would be heard across the galaxy. "This is Captain of the Earth Defense Fleet. We are claiming the disputed corridor as human territory. All 3 systems, all resources, all navigation rights. Any vessel that interferes will be treated as hostile. This is your only warning." The response came quickly, not from the border station but from the Helix Dominion itself. High Speaker's face appeared on every screen, his blue skin flickering with rage. "You cannot do this," snarled. "This is an act of war. The disputed corridor is protected by galactic agreement." "We are no longer part of any galactic agreement," replied. "You made sure of that, High Speaker. You laughed at our ambassador. You aid to our children. You told us we had no rights in galactic space, so we are taking what we need. You will be destroyed. I am sending my 7th Fleet to remind you of your place." "Send them," said simply. "We will be waiting." The channel closed, turned to his tactical officer. "How long until they arrive?" 6 hours, sir. 42 ships, heavy cruisers and destroyers." Nodded. "Good. Position the fleet in the asteroid belt near the 2nd planet. Standard ambush formation." The human fleet moved like a single organism. Every ship knew its place. Every captain understood the plan. They had trained for this moment for months. They had memorized every alien tactic, every weakness, every blind spot. The 7th Fleet arrived expecting to face primitives with stolen technology and borrowed ships. They found something very different. The Helix Dominion commander, Admiral Thorax, ordered his ships into a standard attack formation. It was the same formation they had used for 1,000 years. Elegant, proven, undefeated. The humans did not use any formation he recognized. They came out of the asteroids in tight clusters, moving at angles that should have been impossible. They did not try to match the alien formation. They did not play by the rules of galactic warfare. They swarmed. Thorax watched in disbelief as human ships closed to point-blank range. "They are insane," he muttered. "They will be destroyed by our shields." But the shields did not work, not against kinetic weapons. Alien technology had focused on energy weapons for elegant beams of light and heat. Their shields were designed to absorb and deflect energy. But the humans did not use energy weapons. They fired chunks of metal at incredible speeds. Simple, brutal, unstoppable. The first Helix cruiser exploded as a kinetic round punched through its shield like it was not there. Then another, then 5 more. "Fall back," Thorax screamed. "Fall back and regroup." But the humans gave them no chance to regroup. The Resolve led the charge, its heavy armor absorbing hits that would have destroyed any alien vessel. His voice was calm as he gave orders. "Target their engines first, then their weapons. Leave their communication arrays intact. I want them to broadcast this." The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, the Seventh Fleet was broken, 22 ships destroyed, 20 more damaged beyond repair. The survivors limped away, their cameras recording everything. The human fleet had lost 11 ships, but every single crew had been evacuated before destruction. Escape pods, designed and built because humans believed that people were more valuable than machines. The aliens had never bothered with such things. Why would they? They never lost. Admiral received the battle report on Earth. Doctor stood beside him, watching the numbers scroll across the screen. 11 losses, said, acceptable. No loss is acceptable, replied quietly, but necessary. How is the galaxy responding? The response was chaos. The Galactic Council called an emergency session, stood before the delegates, his face twisted with fury. The humans have attacked us. This is an act of war. We must respond with the full force of the Council. But the other delegates hesitated. The collective spoke first. We share a border with human space. If we attack, we will be the first target. We need more information. The assembly agreed. The humans defeated a full fleet with primitive weapons. We do not understand how. We must study this before we act. Even the bright sovereignty, who had questioned whether humans were sentient, was silent. What is wrong with you? Demanded. They are primitives, they are nothing. They were nothing, the collective replied. 6 months ago, something has changed. We must discover what. The vote for unified action failed. The council was divided. Fear had entered the chamber for the first time in centuries. Back in the disputed corridor, Captain watched the alien retreat from his command chair. His tactical officer approached with a report. "Sir, we are receiving communication requests. The bright sovereignty wants to open back-channel talks with Ambassador." Smiled already, that was fast. "They are scared, sir." Good stood and looked out at the stars. They have forgotten what fear feels like. They have had peace so long they do not remember what it costs. We are going to remind them. His communication officer spoke up. "Message from Admiral, sir. He says, well done. Phase 2 begins tomorrow." Nodded, the demonstration was complete. The galaxy knew now that humanity was not weak, not primitive, not harmless. But this was only the beginning. The real war would not be fought with ships and weapons. It would be fought with information, with secrets, with the 1,000 small cuts that could bring empires to their knees. And humanity had been preparing those cuts for a very long time. The offer arrived 3 weeks after the battle. Ambassador read it in her office on Earth, her face showing nothing. The Galactic Council was willing to negotiate. They would restore all treaties. They would provide the shield technology that Earth had originally requested. They would even offer additional trade benefits and protection guarantees. All humanity had to do was withdraw from the disputed corridor and apologize for the misunderstanding. Typed her response with steady fingers, 1 word. Insufficient. The council was confused. What more could the humans want? They were offering everything Earth had asked for, more than everything. Surely the primitives would see reason now. Full response arrived the next day. Earth no longer requires your aid. Our food crisis has been solved. Our orbital farms are operational. Our colonies on Mars and Titan are thriving. We built these things ourselves in silence while you laughed at us. She continued, "What we want now is recognition, a permanent seat on the High Council, full voting rights, equal to any other civilization, and a formal apology for the insults delivered to our ambassador. This apology will be broadcast to every world in the galaxy." The council exploded with outrage. "Impossible," screamed. "They demand equality. They have existed for barely 10,000 years. We have civilizations older than their entire species." "Age does not equal worth," the collective responded. Perhaps we should consider their terms. You cowards, you would bow to these vermin. The debate went on for days. Factions formed. Alliances shifted. Some species saw opportunity in supporting humanity. Others feared what would happen if they did not. In the end, the vote for accepting humanity's terms failed. Pride was stronger than fear. The old guard refused to bend. Received the news calmly. She had expected this. They all had. Phase 3, she said to Admiral over secure channel. Release the files. Intelligence officer had waited 15 years for this moment. She sat in her data center, surrounded by screens, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. Are you sure? Her deputy asked. Once we do this, there is no going back. There was never any going back, replied. They made sure of that when they laughed at our dying children. She pressed the key. The files went everywhere at once. Every news network, every government channel, every public forum in the galaxy. Millions of documents, thousands of recordings, evidence of crimes that the superior species had committed while believing no one was watching. The collective's illegal biological experiments. They had been testing genetic weapons on primitive species in the outer systems, entire populations used as lab animals. The evidence was undeniable. Video recordings, scientific data, names and dates and locations. The assembly's slave labor operations. Beautiful crystal beings built by slaves who died in the mines. The assembly had preached equality while working other species to death in the dark places of their empire. The bright sovereignty's assassination of a rival diplomat. They had blamed it on pirates. They had started a small war over it. Thousands had died, and it had all been a lie. Every major power had secrets. Every ancient civilization had dirt, and humanity had collected it all. The council chamber descended into chaos. Delegates screamed at each other. The collective accused the assembly of hypocrisy. The assembly accused the bright sovereignty of murder. The bright sovereignty accused everyone of conspiracy. 3 civilizations threatened to withdraw from the council entirely. 2 others announced they were opening independent negotiations with Earth. The alliance that had ruled the galaxy was cracking apart. And then Captain made his move. The Second Fleet emerged from FTL just outside the Helix Dominion's most sacred location, the ancestral shipyard. It was where the first Helix ships had been built, thousands of years ago. It was a symbol of their power, their history, their identity. Fleet did not attack. They simply held position just outside weapons range, watching. The message was clear: we can reach you anywhere, we can hurt you anywhere. We chose not to, this time. Received the news while still screaming at the council. His face went pale. His skin stopped glowing entirely. They would not dare, he whispered. They already have, his advisor replied, and they are broadcasting their position to everyone. The whole galaxy can see. For the first time in his very long life, understood what fear felt like. Ambassador requested to address the council. She stood in the same spot where she had been humiliated months ago, but everything was different now. You built this order, she said, her voice carrying through the silent chamber, on the assumption that newcomers would always be weak. That assumption kept you comfortable. It let you abuse and exploit and laugh at anyone who could not fight back. She looked directly at. That assumption is no longer valid. She turned to address the full council. You have a choice. You can adapt. You can accept humanity as an equal partner. You can build a new order based on mutual respect instead of ancient privilege. She paused. Or you can watch everything you have built collapse. We have shown you what we can do militarily. We have shown you what we know about your secrets. We have shown you that we can reach your most sacred places whenever we choose. Clasped her hands behind her back. This is not a threat. It is a simple statement of reality. The old order is dying. You can die with it, or you can help build something better. Silence. Then slowly the bright sovereignty delegate spoke. We support humanity's admission to the High Council, with full voting rights. The collective spoke next. We agree. The evidence released today shows that the current system is broken. Perhaps new voices are needed. One by one, the votes came in, not unanimous. The Helix Dominion and the Assembly voted against, but enough to pass. Humanity would have its seat. Bowed slightly. Thank you, Earth accepts your decision. We look forward to working together. She walked out of the chamber with her head high. Behind her sat in his seat, staring at nothing. He had ruled this region of space for 300 years. He had never been defeated, never been humiliated, never been afraid. Now he was all three. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a terrible thought began to form. If the humans could do this in 6 months, what would they do in a year, in a decade, in a century? He had laughed at them once, called them vermin. He would never laugh again. 1 year had passed since the day humanity from the treaties, 1 year since the insult, 1 year since everything changed. Ambassador Park walked into the High Council chamber and took her seat. Not a visitor's seat, not a petitioner's spot in the center of the room. A High Council seat, raised above the main floor, equal to the oldest civilizations in the galaxy. Admiral sat beside her. He no longer commanded just Earth's fleet. He now led the Combined Defense Initiative, a new alliance of 12 species who had watched humanity's rise and decided to join rather than oppose. The chamber was quieter than it used to be. The laughter was gone. The casual cruelty was gone. When humanity's representative spoke, everyone listened. Was not there. He had been removed from power by his own people 3 months ago. The Helix Dominion was not ready to admit that humans had defeated them, but they were ready to blame for the humiliation. He lived in exile now, on a small moon at the edge of his former territory, alone with his memories of when he had ruled the stars. The collective had fractured into 3 separate factions, each blaming the others for the biological experiments that humanity had exposed. They would probably reunite eventually, or they would not. Either way, they were no longer a unified threat. The old guard was dying, slowly, painfully, but certainly. Dr. Lee stood at the speaker's platform. She was presenting humanity's proposal to the council, not a demand, not a threat, a gift. For decades, humanity hid its capabilities, she began. We pretended to be less than we were. We let you believe we were primitive. We did this because we had no choice. We were weak. We were alone. We could not afford to be seen as a threat. She touched a control and images appeared above her. Ships, farms, medical facilities, technologies that the aliens had never seen. We are no longer weak. We are no longer alone, and we no longer need to hide. She gestured at the images. These are humanity's achievements. Faster-than-light travel that works differently from anything you have developed. Agricultural systems that can feed a planet with a fraction of the resources you require. Medical treatments that can extend life and cure diseases that your scientists consider untreatable. The council watched in silence. We could keep these for ourselves, continued. We could use them to dominate the way you once dominated us. We could build an empire on your broken pieces. She paused and looked around the chamber. We choose not to. She explained the proposal, a technology-sharing initiative. Human innovations offered freely to any civilization willing to participate. No conditions, no payment, no strings attached. Why? Asked the assembly delegate. Why would you share this? We treated you terribly. We laughed at your suffering. Why help us now? Smiled. It was a strange smile, sad and proud at the same time. Because that is what we want to be, not conquerors, not rulers, partners. We spent too long being afraid, being hidden, being less than we could be. That ends now. We will be what we choose to be, and we choose to be better than you were to us. The vote passed. Not everyone agreed. Some species still feared humanity too much to accept gifts from them, but enough said yes. The initiative began. Captain patrolled the new borders in a fleet that no longer looked purely human. Ships from 6 different species flew alongside the Resolve. Alien officers served on human vessels. Human officers served on alien vessels. They were learning from each other. Stood on his bridge, watching the stars slide past. "Sir," his communication officer said, "message from the Titan colony. They are asking for fleet support. A group of pirates has been raiding their supply lines." "Pirates or raiders from one of the old powers?" asked. "Unknown, sir." Nodded, set course for Titan. Signal the 3rd Squadron to join us. As the fleet moved, thought about how much had changed. A year ago, humanity had been alone, isolated, afraid. Now they had allies, now they had power, now they had a future. But some things had not changed. The galaxy thought strength meant age, he told his first officer as they traveled. They thought because they had existed longer, they were automatically better. They forgot that survival itself requires strength, the kind you only develop when everything tries to kill you. His first officer was from the bright sovereignty. He glowed softly as he considered these words. "Your species is very young," said, "but very dangerous." "Yes," agreed. "We are, but we are also trying to be something else, something more. We have shown what we can destroy. Now we must show what we can build." On Earth, children learned a new history, not the history of a primitive species that begged for scraps, the history of a civilization that endured, that adapted, that refused to be dismissed. Schools taught about the great empires of the past, the Egyptians, the Romans, the Chinese dynasties, the European powers, the global civilization that had finally united under threat from the stars. Each era was a lesson. Each failure was a warning. Each success was a promise. Humanity had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, famines, disasters that would have destroyed lesser species. They were still here. They would always be here. Ambassador gave the final address to the council at the end of the year. She stood at the speaker's platform looking out at the assembled delegates. Some had been her enemies. Some were now her allies. All of them were listening. "1 year ago, you asked whether humanity was truly sentient. You questioned our right to exist. You laughed at our suffering and called us vermin." She paused. "Let me answer those questions now." She stood. "We are the species that crawled out of the mud. We survived ice ages that froze our world. We survived plagues that killed half our population. We survived wars that could have ended us. And through it all, we looked up at the stars and dreamed." Her voice grew stronger. "We do not ask for respect. We earn it. We do not request survival. We take it. We do not beg for a place in the galaxy. We build it ourselves." She looked around the chamber one final time. "You wanted to know if we deserve to exist. Here is your answer. We exist because we refuse to die. We exist because we are stubborn and clever and too angry to give up. We exist because the universe itself could not kill us." She smiled, a real smile this time, warm and fierce and human. "And we remember. We remember everyone who helped us. We remember everyone who stood with us when we had nothing. We remember every act of kindness." Her smile faded slightly. "We also remember everyone who tried to stop us, everyone who laughed, everyone who called us vermin and questioned our souls." She let the silence stretch. "We remember, and we are very, very patient." The chamber was silent. No one laughed, no one questioned, no one doubted. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same.